And I just want to give you a little bit of verbal caffeine that's going to energize your business and help you stay social. And this podcast is sponsored by Restoration Ninja Marketing. And welcome, Matt. So glad to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
So tell me a little bit about your business and who you serve.
Yeah, so I've got a number of businesses here. We are about an hour north of Denver, so we're in Loveland, Colorado. And my first company that I founded is M&E Painting and Roofing. So we do residential and commercial re-roofing and repainting services. And we also have a small book of real estate business. So I help some people buy and sell real estate. And then I'm a co-owner of a Brazilian jiu-jitsu and self-defense academy. So I get a chance to teach little kiddos every day and run the kiddos program. And then, my fun hobby and passion that I've then turned into a business is I speak and I write business and leadership books and then take business owners and business leaders on leadership retreats to Spain.
Wow, that's kind of exciting. So what
Yeah.
what is with the passion for Spain? Like why
Yeah.
Spain? Out of
Yeah, right. Out of all the places in the world. So I lived there in college. I was going to college at Colorado State up here in Fort Collins, and really, like, I knew I loved business, but I didn't have a business degree. I just loved and did business since I was a little kid. So I'm studying child development and family studies because I wanted to teach. But then I was also minoring in Spanish, and I hit it off with one of my Spanish professors, and literally every day she would encourage me and kind of harass me in a way, in a positive way. She's like, "You need to go see my beautiful country. You need to go to Spain. You need to go to Spain." And I literally just on a whim signed up one day to drop everything I was doing the next semester and go live with a family over there and totally fell in love with it.
That's so funny. I have a side story here. I have a really, really good friend who studied abroad and it was in Spain and she was there for 2 years, which was
Yeah.
4 semesters. And that was when I'm dating myself now, but that was when I think that it was the first Star Wars.
Yeah.
And there was nothing to do there except, whatever they do, with school and then immerse in the culture. And literally she saw Star Wars, I think she said 12 times. I was
Well,
like,
because they
who does
filmed some
that?
of that down in Sevilla, in Seville. Yeah.
And it was in Spanish. So it's like literally the very first time I saw Star Wars with her, she literally could say everything in Spanish with no problem. It
Yeah.
was so
Awesome.
funny. So you help businesses, you own a couple businesses.
Mhm.
Tell me about, some challenges that you've faced in owning a business and with some of your businesses.
Yeah, I think each one had its own unique challenges, but when I launched the painting and roofing company, I was still pretty young. I was right out of college. So I got experience in college running a college painting company, not thinking that I would stay in the business. And then, a couple of events led to me working as a mortgage broker at a bank, and I hated the bank, and the bank hated me, like I'm not employee material. And they fired me in March of 2005. So, like, I'm literally six figures in debt, no more money coming in, and no more job. And like all I knew how to do was run paint crews. So I launched this painting company with $100. So first challenge is we don't have any money, like literally have no money. So I had to be very creative in creating jobs and creating cash flow right off the bat. Challenge two was I was like 22 years old. I was fresh out of college. And I thought I knew a lot more than I did just about life and the world and being mature. So just presenting in front of somebody that owns a $500,000 home, asking them for five, six, $7,000 to paint their house. And I'm 22 years old, right? So there's a challenge there. And then I was very aggressive and took a different approach and angle to marketing, which rubbed some people very, very wrong. A lot of the competition didn't like it. So in the early days, we were actually catching a lot of like threats and people that were really pushing back against the company. So we'd go set up at a job site, put our sign up. Another competitor would drive by, rip out the sign, or go knock on the door. Hey, don't hire these young punks. They don't know what they're doing. And those were kind of the big challenges. But I mean, I had such a dream and vision and energy to grow this business that really overrode a lot of the struggles that we were being presented with.
Now, marketing is so different now compared to when you were 22 years old. But I'm assuming when it came to when you were 22, getting that first client, that you took some kind of deposit because you needed to pay your
Yeah.
guys.
Oh,
So,
totally. Yeah.
what would you say is different about marketing in today's world? And do you use, like for instance, social media, digital advertising? Do you use any of that in your business today?
Oh, totally. Yeah. And I think the methods and medias through which you market have changed over the years, but I think just the fundamental concept of marketing is really the same, is where is somebody's attention currently, and how do you steal some of their attention in a creative way? Because I mean, marketing is really interrupting somebody's attention. So back in the day, right, the old school days of the phone book, we used to fight for space in the phone book. So whoever had the biggest ad. So color ads went in front of black and white ads, and then the bigger full page went in front of the three quarters, so on and so forth. So you had to position in there, right? And you were constantly fighting with the reps to work up your positioning. But again, it's where are the eyes going? Where is the attention going? So we were fighting for phone book space. And then I knocked on doors, right? So, I mean, we knew people were home. We knew the neighborhoods we wanted to paint. You knock on the door. Right now, I equivalate, that's a word, door knocking. Like we still knock doors and we do that and it's effective, but getting in social media, right? Like somebody's sitting there reading a book, reading a magazine 20 years ago, you knock on their door to interrupt their attention. Now they're on their phone, so you have to interrupt it there in a very creative way. So for me, I really focused on consistently doing that, finding one or two things that worked and then measuring those things so I knew the exact return on the time or the dollar, and then just continuing to execute on those over and over. I think one mistake I would encourage business owners not to make, there's so many ways that you can market. There's so many kinds of ads or posts or whatever on social media now, right? And other methods is just find one thing that works, do it 200 times and track it. And then once you get a return, just keep doubling down on that.
Yeah, I always tell people find that one unicorn post that you posted. There always is one, and you don't have to like reinvent the wheel. It's kind of funny. Funny story I want to add about marketing. I remember when I was in high school, I was working at the supermarket, and at that time there were record stores. So I would get my paycheck on Friday, and the first thing I would do is go, because right in the mall where I worked, I would literally go to that record store. And I remember this about, and it kind of applies to marketing. This is why I want to share it. I was looking through the albums, which one I'm going to get. And I wanted to get one of the popular ones, but I saw a National Lampoon album. And I thought, well, they're pretty funny. And, that some of the skits they've had were really funny. So I went a little bit further, and then I saw this album that said, if you do not buy this out, I think it said record, we will shoot the dog. And it just triggered something in me. Well, I was going to buy a Led Zeppelin album. I was like, I knew exactly which one I wanted. And I ended up buying that album because I didn't want them to shoot the dog. It was the most
Right?
silliest thing, but it worked. It got my attention. So I just wanted to drive home the point about getting someone's attention. So now, today, what else are you focusing on? I know it's attention, but what else in marketing do you focus on?
I really love, so I'm a huge fan of a business author and speaker. His name is Mike Michalowicz. So you may have heard of his book, Profit
Pumpkin
First.
plan.
Yeah, and Pumpkin Plan. I've gotten to know Mike over the years. Just a great, great human, like just great guy, right? All around. But he wrote a book called Get Different. And part of that is you need to do something that's different. You don't need to be the best or the biggest or whatever. You just need to do something different. So I'll share an example that like really flipped things for us in our roofing side of the business. So painting, residential paint contracting, you can go knock on a homeowner's door and you're going to get 5% of them that don't like you knocking on the door. They're going to tell you to shoo, go away, no soliciting sign. But most of the time everybody's going to be pretty responsive, right? So I've done this for decades. In the roofing business, we get a lot of hail in Colorado. So you start hearing those the hail hit your house. Literally 20 minutes later, you've got hundreds of people knocking on your door. I mean, it is this very aggressive, just ambulance chasing, door knocking kind of a thing. So we launched our roofing company, the roofing division in 2020. So our first big hailstorm was 2 years ago. And it was in this small little town. It's called Wellington. It's north of Fort Collins. So we're like, okay, guys, ready to go door knocking. We've done this before. This is pretty easy. And we're literally lining up behind trucks of roofers. And by the time we're knocking on the door, we're there that early afternoon. We're the 18th company to knock on the door. People are pissed. I mean, we're getting kicked off of properties. And I'm like, hold on a minute. We're not going to do this. This isn't going to work. I love coffee and I love sharing coffee with people. So we're sitting around the table the next day, like, what can we do? Maybe we can go drop by these little Spanish coffee kits. We have these little bags of coffee that we brand. We have a little free coffee bar here. So it's like, let's go drop coffee off at their house. And then we said, let's do something even better. We went to a local small town coffee shop and said, hey, we're going to pay for everybody's coffee that comes by this coming Friday from 8 to 10 a.m. As long as it's okay that we let the people coming through the drive-through and up to the counter know that we're paying for it. So we did this. So we dropped, I think, $1,500 in 2 hours at this coffee shop. And we're just meeting the neighbors come through. We've got our little painting and roofing shirts on. So this was a real big hit the first Friday. Then we decided to do it for the next 2 months. So for 8 weeks, we did this. We spent about $20,000 on buying people coffee. But now what we would do is we went out the next Friday, we knocked on doors. We're in our roofing shirts. And you would see people come to the door. What do you expect, right? Another sales pitch from a roofer trying to get on your roof. And they'd open the door. What do you want? So, we actually don't want to talk to you about your roof. We're just down the street buying everybody coffee. We gave them a little card, come down, coffee's on us. And then literally turned around and just walked off. And they're like, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Can you look at my roof? It just got hit by hail. So like we knew what we were doing there. But just that approach of being different, knocking on their door for a different reason, it just really met them in a different way. And it's something we get to do to pour into the community. So it was really cool. We landed about $500,000 worth of revenue from that $20,000 investment. So like back to brass tacks, 20,000 in, gave us $500,000 out. And we did it in a really creative way. And it actually made knocking on doors fun because you're not trying to go, pitch something or get on their roof or take their claim. So,
yeah, the big thing people are doing with knocking on doors today is the solar.
yeah.
And what they do is they'll you don't answer, and I don't answer my door because nobody's coming to visit me, so I know it's a solicitation. But if
Mhm.
what they use though is we're in the area, we're doing your neighbors,
Mhm.
solar panels, and we would love, to give you a quote, and it's like, oh no. So they leave if we don't answer the door, they like leave one of those door hanger
Mhm.
advertisement things, and I throw them in the garbage. But
Yep.
um, it's like every spring and every fall we get the solar panel people knocking
Yeah.
at our door.
Well, and,
So
and what I would encourage, anybody listening to this, so like real estate, I'm in the real estate business, so a lot of realtors gain and earn business from open houses, right? So what's the typical open house that you walk into as a consumer? Like you're out with your friends, your family, you just want to go look at this house, whether you're in the market or not. And the minute you walk in, the realtor's like, hey, sign my book and give me your data and give me your info. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So again, I'm a coffee guy, so we bring our coffee bar, we make it mobile, and we literally, somebody comes in, hey, can I make you a Spanish coffee? And they go, what is Spanish coffee? Like that's the number one response I get. And I make them a coffee and start a conversation. So the process of being at an open house works in real estate to gain a lead and turn that into a customer. Knocking on a door works in roofing, but just doing it differently and doing something that people don't expect. And I'm a huge proponent of I talk about pouring into people, right? It's connection, it's contribution, and it's care. When you take those three things and you intersect that in a relationship with a person, that they'll really respond in a very sincere way when you're being sincere about it and you're not just trying to take their money. So I always love experimenting with fun ways to do that.
yeah, I think that's great. As well, you may not know, but I own a business called Biz Gone Social, and I love coffee. So anytime that I can put coffee into any kind of meeting, I'm there.
Yeah.
It's like, and every once in a while, like, you'll go, I'll be in line at like Starbucks or something. And Starbucks isn't really my favorite place, but the coffee is just so expensive. But some of their little lattes they make are really good. And so every once in a while, I just feel very generous and say, hey, just, the car behind me, just pay for their coffees,
Yeah.
and it's like, it's just something fun to do. So you have, one of the things about owning your own business is leadership. And it seems like you've learned a whole lot about being a leader. And so tell me about, I love when, tell me about your jiu-jitsu and, why that. I mean, I used to do Tang Soo Do, so I know a
Okay.
little bit, but jiu-jitsu is so different. So tell me a little bit about, why you do that. And also with that, it's like, how do you have six businesses. So how do you find time to even do that? So tell me a little bit about
Yeah.
that.
Like three really good questions, and they all kind of tie in together in a really nice way. So what I learned about leadership is very early on in business is that I really wasn't good at it. I sucked at it. It's like I'm good at marketing, I'm good at sales, I'm good at making business happen. But to be a good leader, you really have to have this understanding of humans and people and what makes them tick, and just this emotional understanding of hey, like we're working in business together, but this is somebody else's life that you get to impact. So in my early days of business, we had a very, big exponential growth in our painting company, but I did not have a lot of people that wanted to stay around and continued working for the company. I was just kind of a dick of a boss. I don't know how else to say it. Bleep that out if you bleep stuff out. But I wasn't a nice guy. I was young. I was very aggressive, and I had a lot to prove. And I started going through some business coaching, business undercover leadership coaching is what I call it. And this guy that's coaching me, one day I was just really frustrated. I can't believe this guy quit again. It's the same kind of people quitting for the same reasons and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, Matt, you're the common denominator, not everybody else. Did you ever think that you suck at leadership and you suck at conflict management? And he was like right in my face about it. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. So a couple of things when I talk about leadership is business. If you strip everything down, business, relationships, marriage, friendships, whatever that is, it's just humans coming together under a common vision and goal where you work towards something. It's humans serving humans. So when you can get really good at understanding people, what drives them, what their visions are, what their passions are, and then create an opportunity to tie that into their life, that's when you can really start driving things forward in leadership. And what's been cool about jujitsu is, jujitsu is basically the martial art where 100-pound woman can defend herself against a 200-pound man. Has nothing to do with size, strength, speed. It's all leverage, timing, and technique. So when you can incorporate those kind of concepts into business and leadership, really cool things happen. So I got introduced to jujitsu by getting beat up by a teenager. He was like half my age and half my size. I was big, strong meathead Matt. I come out onto the jujitsu mats and thinking I'm just going to drive and force myself into this physical engagement. And this kid just starts tossing me around and throwing me around and choking me and stretching out my limbs. And I'm like, my leadership journey was very similar to my jujitsu journey. So, right, you step into it and you don't know what you don't know, and you learn a lot the hard way, but then you come along people that have been there, done that, and they just kind of take you under their wing. So, yeah, it's been really interesting. All of these things that I've fallen in love with. You ask that last question. I've got multiple businesses, but I've really been able to take different passions that I have. We have everything here in one location in Loveland with our little free coffee bar. And I just, I don't see it as like, oh, six businesses. It's I get to hang out with really cool people every day and do things that I love and lead a team and position people into things that they love. And we just get to make people's lives better here in the community. And that's super important for us. So, sometimes when I look at the scope of, man, there's a lot of moving parts to the business, that can get a little overwhelming sometimes. But when we look at it more purposefully, it makes all the other stuff go by a lot smoother.
Yeah, I mean, I love, your your attitude about serving the community and being all about that. And really, when it comes down to it, it's really about relationships. And I always say to everybody, relationships really do matter to me. So I don't want to be that leader that is bad. I want to, I want to create culture. And I think that's something really important. So if there's one question I can ask you, I always ask this, but I'm going to rephrase it a little bit, is what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
I love that. I love that question. So I would say slow down. It's not all going to happen overnight. When I was younger, I wanted everything very, very quickly. Like nothing great comes in less than a decade. So I would have reminded myself of that, and then I would have continued to encourage myself to, listen to mentors, seek out more people sooner than I did that have been there, done that, and then listen to what they have to say because they're
Yeah.
successful for a reason. And then the last thing, and I just love how this transition, and some people argue with me about this, but I mean, at least in my life, it's been true, is your business will only be as healthy as you are personally, emotionally. So, we talk about mental health and just like we live in a world where there's just so much information and so much divide and things that can stress you out and pull you off track. But I know in my journey, when I've made like different breakthroughs in my business, it's been when I've really gotten over certain struggles and challenges. And, everybody's got a story and everybody carries just crap from their past that can pull them off of their purpose. And if you don't deal with that personally, you cannot compartmentalize that and think, I'm going to not be healthy here and I'm just going to be cool in business. It will totally spill over. And that was one of the biggest lessons I learned early on and still continue to learn.
That's awesome. It's funny. We always, you mentioned that we bring in a lot from our past, but if you take the attitude about learning from our past and not necessarily moving on, you do eventually have to move on, but sometimes you have to work through some things. And a
Yeah,
lot of people think that that's all hogwash and they don't want to take the time to do it. When in truth, every relationship they have, every encounter with somebody they have, your past affects that. There's no doubt about it. So I'm glad you
it
mentioned that
does.
because a lot of people out there don't realize how important it is to work on yourself and take that time to work on yourself. Well, Matt, this has been wonderful. I enjoyed the conversation. I always learn from these conversations. And so if somebody resonated with you and they want to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Yeah, just go to my website, mattshoup.com. So I've got some free tools and free resources on there. And then, we've got a leadership podcast. We drop an episode every week, and I've got some adventures coming up to Spain, and just you can learn everything right about me there.
That's awesome. Well, I want to thank you again for being like an awesome guest. And to everyone out there, till next week, I'll see you soon.